All right. Good day, Art. How are you, man?
What's going on? Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. It's a pleasure. So listen, we have a lot of stuff to get going, or a lot of stuff to cover. So I'm going to spend not too much time with the introduction, and then we'll get right to it if that's okay. And do you want me to call you Art, Sarge? You want me to call you the Iron Wolf? What do you want me to call you, brother?
You could call me Art. That's
Okay.
That's who I am.
That's who. All right.
That's
Perfect.
who I am.
Giddy up. Okay, we're gonna get to it. So, I greatly appreciate you, agreeing to do this with me because, as I said, I came upon your YouTube and on your Instagram, came up into my feed, and I was like, man, this brother is all about it. And I really appreciate what you're doing in terms of exercise, your level of intensity, your level of discipline. And so I wanted to, discuss those concepts with you and kind of, just understand a little bit more about where you're coming from. So for a lot of the people who are coming from my side of things, they don't know who you are. So can you give them a brief introduction of who you are? I know I've watched a couple of your videos, so I have a little bit of an idea, but can you give them an introduction and to let them know who you are, what you do?
So my name is Art, aka Iron Wolf. I practice full body calisthenic routines. I'm currently an active duty Marine. I'm serving right now overseas, and the goal for my channel was just to start showing people that you could reach a high level of physical fitness through full body calisthenic routines, and you really don't do a lot because that's how I train and that's how I've trained many of my guys. So I wanted to start passing it on and show people a starting point where to start. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, and that's my angle of training and my purpose.
Okay. So you said that you're a Marine. So how long have you been enlisted in the U.S. forces?
14 years. I just hit 14 years in May. I've been doing this for a while. I'm 35 years old. Even though I still feel like a kid inside, I still feel like like the day that I enlisted.
You still got a little bit of that baby face shine on, so that's good.
You take care of yourself, and your body takes care of you, right?
All right, giddy up. Now, and then, so in the Marines now, if I understand this correctly, you're a sergeant, correct?
I'm a gunnery sergeant.
Gunnery sergeant. All right, giddy up. Okay, so as I said, we have a whole bunch of stuff to cover, and I've given you the questions before, so I'm going to try and roll through those, and hopefully we'll get through them. If not, maybe we'll have to do a part 2. I don't know, but we'll see.
Sure.
All right, so first things first. Mental toughness. That's the first thing that we want to talk about. So I want you to give us your thoughts on what is mental toughness.
So mental toughness for me goes beyond the workout. I think a lot of people associate mental toughness with I'm going to set this workout and I'm going to complete it and I'm going to be tough through it. For me, mental toughness is a continuous thing. It's a mindset and it's a lifestyle. And it's always putting yourself in uncomfortable situations and always preparing for the next situation. So it's almost being in a state of readiness. It's like, I know what I need to do, and this is going to continue indefinitely. So that is my definition of mental toughness, and it's taking your life and that lifestyle and always being prepared and ready and a constant state of readiness. That's what mental toughness is to me. It's doing the shit you don't feel like doing, but you got to do it anyway, and you got to do it continuously, day in and day out. And really, there is no end to it. You're just in there for the long haul. And to me, that's mental toughness. It is the grind. It's the grind.
So this is something that I think is very important. I love what you just said. It is the grind, because I find when I speak to young people a lot, whether it's my own kids or whether I speak to other young people, they have this vision, because of what they see on Instagram, what they see on Twitter or whatever. Oh man, life is great. It's all about the Benjamins. It's all about this, whatever. And they don't understand what is behind that to get those people to that spot, right? All that work, all that uncomfortable stuff that is just not fun, but you got to do it, right? So I really like what you said there about the grind. Okay, so let me move on to the next question then. So, which you touched on a little bit now, but why is mental fitness important? Why do you think that that's important for everybody?
It's important because it calluses your mind for those bad situations in life. Because sometimes life is going to hit you really hard, and it's going to hit you unexpected. And if you're not used to being uncomfortable, and if you're not resilient, and you're not used to dealing with any kind of adversity or stress, it's going to crush you the first time it hits you, because you're going to be lost and you're going to be feeling uncomfortable. You're going to be feeling vulnerable. But if you do it to yourself, then it's a lot easier when that time comes, because you're building that armor, you're building that foundation. Every day I'm going to do something to make me uncomfortable. Every day I'm going to toughen my mind, I'm going to harden my mind, I'm going to harden my body, I'm going to hone it as one. So when that time comes where things are just not going well, you could still have a foundation, and you could be grounded. You say, all right, I've been through this. I know how it feels. I put myself through it on a regular basis. I'm used to being comfortable with the uncomfortable, and I can endure just a little bit better with that stuff. So do it to yourself, because it's going to happen anyway in life.
Exactly. So, one of the viewers here said, doing the Iron Wolf workouts has brought great discipline to my life. And man, I've done a few of these workouts. I haven't done a ton of them yet, but I've done a few of them, and I wholeheartedly agree with that, because holy crap, man, you put out a ton of work, brother. Like, so that's amazing. And one of the other things that I really like that you just said is that, you know, the uncomfortable things in life are going to come regardless. They are going to come regardless, right? So it's better that you prepare yourself, and you do it to yourself first, to callous your mind, so that when somebody else does something, or something else happens that sucks, that you have no control over, that you are able to withstand that. Because it's like, yo, I have been here, I have done that, I have the freaking t-shirt, let's rock it, right? So I love that. All right. So now, if you are going to give people some general tips about mental toughness, how to develop that. So somebody comes to you and they say, yo, Art, man, I do not have this in me, or I'm having trouble with this. What are some tips that you would some basic tips that you would give to people to get started in developing mental toughness for themselves?
So one of the things that I tell my Marines is that you have to build the routine first. You have to stay consistent with something and do it repeatedly. Just show up. If your problem is, you say, oh, I want to do 500 burpees, I'm going to stop you right there, and I'm going to say, hey, how about we just work on just showing up, getting out of bed on time, putting on your sports kit, and just showing up. Get into the habit of start slow, the crawl, walk, run method. But stay consistent. Consistency is the foundation. The second one is visualization. Think about, why do you want to accomplish these goals? Why are they important to you? And is it really something that you want to do? Because not all people want to be mentally tough. Some people are just content. So you got to be honest with yourself and ask yourself, is this something that I want to do? And is this something I want to commit to? There's got to be a level of commitment. Third is coach yourself. Talk to yourself. It's really important to talk to ourselves, talk to our conscience, and actually slow down for a second and listen to what our soul or our consciousness is telling us, because it's going to talk to you exactly what you want. Because in the end, when it's you looking in the mirror by yourself, you know exactly who you are, and you know exactly who you want and what you want in life. So the thing is, you got to be honest. Bringing it back to be honest with yourself and figure out exactly what are your goals. Take out all the background chatter. Forget what your friends want. Forget what your family wants. Think about what you want and what's important to you. Once you realize that this is something that I want to accomplish, and I've had enough suffering in my life, and I've had it, that's when you're going to start reaching those goals, and that goals of mental toughness.
Excellent. Excellent. So to tag on to that now, because you talk about people understanding what they want, knowing what they want, right? So not that I necessarily believe in the law of attraction, right? But I do agree very much with what you said of being able to visualize the things that you want, right? So if you were to think about this whole process and the tips you just mentioned, how do you see that relating to the not, it's not necessarily the law of attraction, but the idea of you being able to manifest in your life what it is that you are going for or driving for? So how does mental toughness relate to that concept?
So mental toughness is goal setting. It's goal setting, and it's discipline, and it's consistency, all rolled into one. It's you're gonna accomplish those goals of whatever you set out to do, because you're constantly reinforcing yourself. It's a positive reinforcement, and subconsciously you're gonna do those things even though you might not be aware of what's going on. And I think when we're talking about the laws of attraction and gravitating towards something that you want to accomplish, the consistency and building a pattern in your life and your daily routine, we call it a daily battle rhythm of waking up on time, making your bed, cleaning your room, all the basic discipline stuff that we teach recruits that come in. Hey, make sure you hygiene right, wear your uniform properly, clean up after yourself. All that stuff subconsciously is going to lead to bigger goals, because it all starts with the small habits.
It's interesting, when I first went to basic training, right? Because I went in as an adult, okay? So I didn't come in as a young recruit. I was already an orthopedic surgeon. I went in, and people are saying, "Why are you doing this?" And I just had an interest to join the military. And when I was going there, it doesn't matter that I was a surgeon. They treated everybody the same, right? I'm a basic recruit, and we did all of these things which are rote and routine. And at the start, I'm like, why are we doing this? Why do we have to do this? I'm an adult, man. I know how to take care of myself. But in the end, you start to understand that when shit hits the fan, when they're trying to build this routine in you so that you can function automatically. You don't have to think about all of these things. When stuff is hard, when it is difficult, when there's bullets flying, mortars going, whatever, you need to be able to just turn off and function, right? You don't want to have to be thinking about all these how to deal with all of that. So I really like the idea of preparing yourself mentally and building in that those pathways and that positive feedback loop that you talk about. I think that's really, really important. So,
And
go ahead.
And just to add to that, and we're talking about building the basic discipline. It's the instant obedience to orders that we're talking about. And then when that carries over to, just say like the civilian life, the discipline that you make, you're setting a code of conduct and a code of rules that you say, I'm going to abide by. And once you start abiding by that, it almost becomes robotic, and it almost becomes so routine that you don't think about doing the right thing. The right thing is already engraved in you. It's instilled with you. You do something long enough, it becomes a habit. And then habits are really hard to break, the good ones and the bad ones. But focus, of course, obviously on the good habits.
Yes.
And that's how you start gravitating to whatever you want to accomplish in life, is building those small habits.
For sure. Now, so I've watched a little bit of your stuff where you've talked about your past, and I don't need to go in depth about your past or anything like that. But I want you mentioned discipline there before, and in the past, you were probably what we would both agree was undisciplined. So I want you to speak a little bit about how mental toughness has allowed you to restore discipline into your life, and what has been the importance of that as you gravitate and as you progress through your career and as you go through life.
Yeah. So like you said, I was a very undisciplined young man. And what made me want to become disciplined is because I wanted my word and my actions to have some kind of value and some kind of meaning. I was not a man of my word at that time. And I felt like I have to reinforce everything I say now. Otherwise, it doesn't mean anything. And if I say something that has to be backed up by actions. There has to be tangible results and tangible goals where people could see, oh, he says this and he's doing that. And for me, nothing else mattered. And I talked about this in another podcast where I said I learned that from my father. My father was always a man of his word, and he was very rigid, and everybody relied on him because they knew that if he said something, it was going to get done. And that's what drove me to hit those accomplishments and those accolades, is because I wanted people to believe in me, and I wanted people to trust me and look up to me as a leader. That was very important to me.
Okay. Now, would you say that change in your life occurred over, like, was it just kind of, you hit a point and you said, okay, today's the day, or is this something that occurred over a period of time?
It's something that occurred over a period of time, where I stayed consistent with the training, and then I started bringing others along into my sphere of influence. In the beginning, I was wondering, like, how come these people don't like me over there? What do they think of over there over me? And I was told, hey, just focus on what you control and your sphere of influence as a leader. If you have one guy under you, then make that guy the best guy you can. And then when you have 10, work on 10. And then when you have 50 Marines, work on making 50 Marines better. So that's all I did. I really dialed in on what I could control, and then what I could control, I'm going to really control, and I'm going to really bring it all together. And then people started to notice, like, hey, this guy hasn't let up. And what he told me made me better. And then they would come back to me and say, like, hey, the consistency and the hard work you said to stick with, it really paid off, and I want to thank you. And that kind of started growing. And as more people came back to me, I realized, like, hey, this is really the path. This works. You show them the way, you be a good leader, you follow up with actions of what you're going to say to them, and people are going to do the right thing by you, and then you're going to make others better, which in turn, as a teacher, when you're always teaching, you're always relearning. So that was really important to me as I always pass, because if you forget, then you're going to forget. If you don't teach, you're going to forget it. So you kind of become like the eternal student. Every time I taught something, every time I said something, I reminded myself as well, like, oh shit, hey, I need to be following this as well. So that's the great part about the mental toughness as well, is staying on the grind and staying consistent in every way.
So one of the things I like there that you said is that as a teacher, you're always learning. And that is so true, right? Like, because you put out information, and then people assimilate that information, they act upon it a certain way, and then you're like, oh, geez, I never thought of it that way, right? And then you learn, bring that back in, incorporate that new information, and you adapt and roll on. So I really like that. All right, so now if we talk a little bit, so if we step away from mental toughness now, and we talk about, and you mentioned this a little bit, but let's go a little bit more in depth about this. Setting goals, the idea of setting goals in particular. And when you answer this, I want to sort of focus on how to make the goals achievable. Okay, so give us your thoughts on that.
Well, making goal achievables is first realizing your capabilities and where you are and your starting point. You have to really assess your situation and where you're at, right, and really be honest with yourself. It always comes back to being honest with yourself. And if you suck, just say you suck. And if you're fat and out of shape, just admit you're fat and out of shape, and know where to start. And then once again, setting goals is you have to see if this is the actual goal for you, and pick and start small and pick maybe one or two goals. Maybe your goal would just be, hey, I'm gonna get out of bed at 5 a.m. and make my bed, and I'm just gonna sit there. And that could be like the gateway goal to next waking up, and then being able to run 6 miles. Or I'm gonna wake up every morning. Or some people say, like, hey, I want to try to lose 50 pounds. How about you at least start, just cut out soda out of your diet for now. Tangible goals will lead to tangible results, and being patient, understanding that whatever situation you are in, it didn't happen overnight. So the goals that you're going to set is not going to happen overnight either. You didn't get here in one day, and you're not going to solve this problem in one day.
For sure, man. I love tangible goals gives tangible results. But here's something that I struggle with when talking to students, or even talking to my kids, or talking to other people, whatever. So I have this belief, okay, my own personal belief. I have this belief that I can attain anything, right? Because I believe this is like, it's like a computer program. I can program the computer, right? And it may mean that I require an exorbitant amount of work, or maybe it means that I require a little amount of work. It depends on what the goal is. But I have this belief that I can attain anything. But you mentioned something there that I do struggle with, because you have to realize where people are starting from, right? So can you speak to how do you reconcile the ideas of, okay, I have to have attainable goals. I have to be honest with myself about what I am and what I can attain. But then again, this idea of I can do anything if I put my mind to it.
Yeah, so I believe like that idea of I could do anything. That's almost like a mindset of powering through and never giving up on what you're gonna set out to do. But attaining those small goals is gonna give you confidence in yourself to know that you could accomplish bigger goals. So you kind of have to build yourself from the ground up. The little goals in the end will end up with a winning mindset, knowing that, hey, I could accomplish anything. And then when you start looking back at the small goals, those are some of the small goals that you thought were hard to do. Like, hey, I could never quit smoking. I could never cut soda out of my diet. I never thought I would start working out. And when you look back at it, like, this ain't shit. I'm doing this daily now. And that's going to give you the confidence to accomplish the bigger goals that what I could do now in the future. When I started working out, I would never think that I would be doing, 500 burpees with ease or anything like that. I remember as a kid struggling to do like 5 push-ups with scrawny arms, but yet I always kind of had the mindset of like, I could still do it. I always believed in yourself. It's one thing to believe in yourself, but then one thing to bring back to reality, understand where you could accomplish and what you could accomplish. And I think that's that fine balance of being realistic, but also having long-term and short-term goals. I think there has to be a difference in it as well. Long-term, yes. Short-term, you're living in the present, and every day you got to work on it.
All right. Now, I'm going to move. I had another question for you, but one of the viewers asked, they would like to know if you had a mentor early on in the Marines that showed you the way, or did you just kind of find this path on your own?
I did have a mentor, but not for physical fitness.
Okay.
I did have a mentor for guidance and how to be a good leader and how to treat Marines. And what I learned was one of the most important things is that everything is a people business. It's how you address people and how you talk to people and how you act around people and how you carry yourself and it's what's gonna attract other people to you. So that's kind of where I learned that leadership was really important. And he always said to me, and I don't have an ego. I try not to have an ego, and I don't think myself as this great leader. But he told me, he said, you have something that people are attracted to you because you're just a hard worker. He said you're not he told me, he said you're not the smartest guy. He said you're not the most charismatic guy.
Don't worry, I'm not the smartest, the most charismatic either, brother.
But he told me, he said that hard work is what's gonna attract people to you, because it's something that people strive for. It's the working man that they like. It's the guy that wakes up every day and just puts his head down and plows through and doesn't get distracted. And in the end, that stuff is going to persevere. So that's kind of the mindset that I took away from him as a young Marine. And I already knew I wasn't the smartest guy, and I knew I wasn't like the best, but I knew I would never be at work because that's something I could control. I would stay after, and I would do more push-ups and pull-ups. I would be the guy that when they released everybody, I would try to hit another mile run. And before we had to go and change over, I would cut my personal time to be just a little bit better than the other guy, just because I knew that's something I could control. And I don't want to be comfortable. And I knew, like, they're not doing it, I'm doing it, so I'm getting better.
Most definitely, man. And so two points before I move on. So number one, that what you talked about with the discipline and the desire to grind, that is what drew me to you. And you know, I would not say that I am anywhere near. I don't have the stamina that you do, but I can tell you one thing is that I do appreciate persistence and dogged determination, man. And when the first video of yours that I saw was the 500 Navy SEALs, and I'm like, get the fuck out. No. I got to watch this, right? And I was like, okay, like for me, that has a worth, a value to it more than so many other things, man. Like the money, the fame, all of that. The fact that you would gut that out, I'm like, all right, I can respect that. So that's point number one. Point number two is I love what you said about the small goals, setting up the bigger goals later on. And people have to realize the way that you climb a mountain is one step at a time. And all of those small goals, if you were going to build a house, man, you don't build a house on sand, you build a house on a solid foundation. And all of those small goals make up the foundation upon which you build the bigger goals later on. And people kind of lose sight of that, right? Because they think, I'm going to do this thing. And yeah, you know what? You can do that thing, but back up a second. Let's see what we need to do to get us to set ourselves into a position where we can do those things, right? So I think that's amazing. Okay, so now let's change focus again. Now let's talk a little bit about body weight training. So tell us why you have a focus on body weight training and why you prefer that method of training.
So how I started bodyweight training was in 2009. I was deployed to Afghanistan in Helmand Province. I was with the 1st Battalion, 5th Marine Regiment, and we were in the middle of nowhere at this patrol base. We had no equipment, nothing at all, but we still wanted to train. So we scrambled some wood. We built a pull-up bar and a dip bar. We put some tent poles in. We set up this little calisthenic area, and we started training. And I had some of the best workouts just doing calisthenics in the sand with the dirty pull-up bar and with the Marines. We're covered in dirt. We were grinding. We put on our body armor and hit pull-ups and dips. So when I came home, the gym didn't appeal to me anymore. I didn't like being inside the gym. Number one, I like the fresh air and I like training in the elements. I think there's something to it that mentally puts you closer to nature, and it's more raw and natural to train outside. Secondly, honestly, I didn't like the people in the gym. I kind of felt pushed away from them because I felt like they weren't training for performance. They were only training for ego. And then I just continued my calisthenic journey because I felt like I was in control. I could train anywhere and I didn't have to rely on anything. Oh, it's, the gym is closed. No problem. Oh, somebody's using this equipment. I gotta wait for them to free up and ask how many sets. I don't want to do that stuff. Sure. I could drop down anywhere and I could crank out calisthenics. I also felt like it gave me a really high level of fitness, and it was just, it's almost like a different type of training. It's just work. It's in its own. It's just work. It's labor. It's a labor.
For sure, man. For sure. And no, go ahead.
Yeah, and I just felt like I was hitting like every muscle, and I was breathing hard, and I actually felt like I got a workout, and I stopped caring how I look. And then I realized that, hey, I don't look so bad from doing these calisthenics. I mean, I'm still getting, it's a win-win, even though that was not my main goal. And then I also saw like my physical fitness scores go up as well in the Marine Corps. I became a stronger runner. I could do more pull-ups and push-ups and sit-ups. Everything just felt easy. And then when I would throw on my body armor, I would throw on the packs. I could keep up with the guys that, say they could squat, X amount of pounds. I said, I feel great. And I wasn't winded. and I just felt like Superman.
So one of the things that I think is interesting, and I love all of those benefits of body weight training, but one of the things that I think is interesting is how you talked about how you look. And, you know, as I was saying to you before, you know, I'm an orthopedic surgeon, but I also own a gym. And in our gym, we have no mirrors, right? And we talk to people about functional training, and we talk to them about being able to move themselves in space and to be able to perform work, but don't pay attention to what you look like, because as a byproduct of learning how to do those other things, you're going to end up looking good without even trying. Because people always come in and they go, I want to tone my abs, I want to tone my legs, I want this, I want bigger. And I'm like, no, man. Let's just come in the gym, let's do some work, and then talk to us 3 months from now and about how you look, and see whether you're happy or not. And so I think that that's amazing. I love to hear that you reinforce that, because we tell this to people all the time, and they're like, no, man, I got to tone this, I got to tone that. No, man, shut up. You don't need to do that. You just need to work hard, and we'll get you looking good. You know?
Absolutely. And the repetition, and I think through constant repetition, you're going to mold and build your body to whatever desire you have. And I think like the beauty of also calisthenics is that you can't do a calisthenic movement without hitting so many different body parts. You know, you're talking about like doing a pull-up, you're hitting so many muscles. You're doing a push-up, you're hitting so many muscles. Burpees, you're just taking your whole body to Rep City directly.
For sure, man. Those I'll tell you, those 8-count bodybuilders or whatever, man, like, yeah, you're using everything, you know? Okay, so here's a question for you. So I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to say, but I'm going to ask this question because people say this all the time, right? So do you think that you can use body weight training for muscle gain, or in particular, or for building size?
No. And I'm going to be completely honest. I think that the purpose of calisthenic training is not to really build size, and it's not really an aesthetic. It's not geared towards aesthetics. You can have a really good natural physique with the proper diet and the proper training, but if your goal is to, you know, win a physique competition, no, I'm not going to tell you that you're going to do burpees and that's going to be your goal. But yes, you can build a natural, good-looking, athletic physique with calisthenics. 100%, you can.
For sure. And you know, I'm the other thing that you can develop with calisthenics, which you talked about a little bit, is muscular endurance, man. Like that, you can't help but develop that with the amount of work and the amount of reps that you do. That your muscular endurance goes through the roof. It's amazing.
Absolutely. And then one thing that I have to add with the burpees, so there's different variations of the burpees. So when we talk about the pumps and the burpees, for those people don't know, a pump is a push-up. That's just a different way of saying it for those that are not tracking that. You could make burpees more into a muscle building exercise by adding more pumps to it. For, if you have like the regular 1 pump burpee, then you're really working on stamina and wind. Once you're in the down position more, and I call that in the down position, when you're doing 5 pump burpees, 5 pump Navy SEALs, 10 pump burpees, and 14 counts, when your time under tension is on the burpee, you're gonna build more muscle because you're pumping more blood into it as well. So you definitely gotta see what variation works for you. I do them all because if I really want a fast-paced cardio workout and I want to really get my metabolism up and shred a little bit, then I'll just do high repetition 1 pumps. If I really want to hit my chest and triceps, then I'll do 5 pump Navy SEALs or regular 5 pump burpees. I have a video where I did 300 5 pump burpees, which came out to 1,500 push-ups in that workout. And the next day I had a hard time brushing my teeth. I still had a pump.
Well,
I still had a pump.
Which is amazing, which is good. Sometimes it sucks, but I like that. Now, you kind of talked about this a little bit, and one of the questions here was: are high reps superior to low rep, but more difficult variation of a body weight exercise?
I wouldn't say it's superior. You're just training a different energy pathway. High reps are going to give you that muscle endurance, and that metabolic conditioning where you could go on for a long period of time and sustained period of time. It's like almost building an engine. Now you could do low reps with calisthenics when you start talking about single joint movements like the pistol squat, the one arm push up, the one arm pull up. You know, even like weighted calisthenics, if you wanna do that stuff. Like if I throw on my body armor, then I'm doing less reps on the calisthenics.
Okay.
So it's just like any kind of training, you have to split it up. You do high reps, and then you should do slower reps and slower tempo to hit different energy pathways. Number one, that's going to make you more well-rounded, and that's also going to take the stress off the joints, and it's going to hit your muscles in a different way. Just as long as people say, well, you know, I do push-ups all the time and I'm getting some discomfort. I said, well, try switching your hand positions. Don't keep your positions the whole time. Hit diamond, close, medium, wide. And then they say, oh yeah, that feels a lot better, because even though you're still doing a pressing movement, you're still switching your hands up and you're taking strain off that body part.
Okay, we're going to come back to that a little later. I'm going to ask a question here. Someone said, so why do you choose the burpee as your focus exercise? Is there an inherent advantage to that?
Yeah. So I want to make perfectly clear. I do all types of calisthenic movements. I record and put the burpee up because I felt like I'm going to make a burpee focused channel because it requires nothing. So nobody would have an excuse not to train. That was really my, that was really kind of like the goal. Hey, this is an exercise where you really don't need anything. I say calisthenics, not everybody has a pull-up bar or a dip bar, and I get that. But this is like you and gravity. Let's go. Let me show you all these variations. And why is it effective? Number one, it uses so many muscles. It recruits so many muscles. It teaches you how to move your body as a whole through time and space. You're going up and down. It builds coordination. It fixes imbalances. It makes you think, because you have to keep the mind engaged when you're doing the burpee. And it's almost like a Swiss Army knife of fitness.
All right. So, you know what? I love the burpee. No, I hate the burpee. Let's be honest. Everybody hates burpees.
Yeah.
But doing them in the manner in which you have sort of have demonstrated here and laid it out, and now I've kind of I'm developing this little bit of zen, right? I put music on and I just kind of like, okay, this is what I'm doing. Giddy up. All right, let's go. And just kind of let the music do its thing and go through it. So and I like what it's doing to me. So that's a good thing. Now, let me ask you your thoughts on volume training, because obviously the stuff that you do is very high volume, right? So speak a little bit about that, pros, cons, just in general. What are your thoughts about volume training?
Okay. I've always been a fan of volume training because I feel like you have to do something so many times to become proficient in it. And we talk about mastery and, you know, hitting like those, 10,000 hours or hundreds and hundreds of reps. I think repetition is the key to excellence. I really believe that. Now, you should progress to volume training smartly, but your goal should be adding volume, especially with calisthenics. Calisthenics is a volume game because you're not going to get a good workout if you do little amounts of reps in calisthenics. Also, the high volume will also build mental toughness because it forces you to continuously grind and hit that number. And when you set that number, I'm going to do 500 of something, it becomes a mental just as physical game because shit, I'm at 200 and I feel like I'm about to tap out. But no shit, I still have 300 left. So high volume and mental toughness work really well together because you have to just grind it out and finish the volume training. And the high volume training in the end is going to make you stronger. You're burning a lot of calories. You're going through the repetition. You're putting in work, and at the same time, you're chipping away at that goal, which is going to make you tougher. And you're going to walk away and say, hey, I just did 500 burpees. Not a lot of people have done that today. And it's a little bit of a confidence boost too, knowing that. So you walk a little bit with your head held up a little bit higher and your shoulders rolled back, because you know you accomplished something. That's what high repetition, because in the end, numbers mean a lot to us. Numbers are everywhere, and that's how we gauge things. How much do you bench? How much money do you have? You know, how much burpees did you do? We're always judging.
Listen, man, I'm sure if you say to people, yo, man, I just did 500 burpees, most people they're gonna like, what? You did what? No, 500. Yeah, 500. Most people can't. Most people are not going to persist to do that. Like that's they're just not, you know. So, going along with that, Rep City. I don't know if that's your term, but you use it a lot. How did Rep City come about?
So, I'm from New York City. Right? I'm from New York City. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I always had like a really cool association with New York. When people ask me like, where are you from? Like, I'm from New York City. That's my city. I'm a high rep kind of guy. So I kind of mashed up the hybrid. I said Rep City, but Rep City is this fictional place where we go and we enter Rep City to train. Like, welcome to Rep City. It's a place for those that want to hit the high volume, hit the hardcore workouts. And that's our place. It's not just my place. Everybody visits Rep City, and we're in this together. And it's a place that welcomes you if you want to train, right? It's almost like this big magical fictional place where guys go and hammer out the burpees. It's like it's a high rep calisthenics guys paradise. It's where we live and where we train. And you know, we're all citizens of Rep City. If you want to take a trip to Rep City, you know what I'm saying? It's like an all-you-can-eat buffet. There's something waiting for you there, and you know, have at it. You're welcome.
Okay, but I as I said in my IG story, I think you are the mayor of Rep City. I don't know, because again, you know, I've been around for years. I'm a couple of years older than you, and I've watched a lot of stuff. And in terms of volume, yeah, your numbers are up there for sure. So speaking about reps and high volume, so if you were going to say to somebody, and again, we've talked a little bit about this, but so if someone said specifically, okay, so today, Art, I'm starting out and I can do 5 push-ups or I can do 5 burpees or whatever, but I want to come and visit. I want to live in Rep City, whatever. What are your recommendations that you would give to them on how to develop the volume and how to develop the endurance?
Yeah, I would say for my best advice for beginners is really start slow and let your body adapt to the volume. So let's say, you know, you do 10 burpees and you're gassed out. You're a complete beginner. I always say train every other day. Let your body heal, and also don't forget about the warm up and the cool down part of the training as well, because that's going to make you a stronger athlete. I also tell the beginners this: focus on form over volume in the beginning. Look at the proper technique of the burpee, because that's going to make you efficient. Once you become more efficient, that's when the volume will come. Forget about the volume. Focus on doing the exercise the correct way, and only start adding repetitions till you could complete your set number of repetitions with ease. When it becomes too easy, when you don't feel challenged anymore. I don't like saying percentages where some people say like, hey, add 10 reps every week. That might not be tangible for somebody, because it might take them 3 weeks to get adapted to those numbers. You know when something becomes effortless for you. If I were to do 100 burpees right now from my 10 years of training, that doesn't give me a stimulus. If it doesn't give you a stimulus anymore, that's when you move up to the next level and you add the volume. That is the best advice to the beginners I could give. When it stops being hard, that's when you need to progress. If you're not growing anymore, add volume, add variation, add repetition.
Okay. Now, so somebody asked a question here. And so when you do the burpees and you're starting out low numbers, that's something that's relatively easy. Well, not relatively easy, but it's easier in that you're going, you're coming down to the ground and you're going to get back up. And whether you can do one, whether you can do 10, that's attainable for most people. But somebody asked about pull-ups, right? Which is now a different kind of strength. Instead of pushing strength, it's a pulling strength. So if you can't develop, or if you cannot do a pull-up, how are you going to train someone to go from not doing one to being able to do one, and then to create a situation where they can add that volume?
Are we talking about for pull-ups specifically, or just not somebody?
Pull-ups specifically.
For pull-ups, I would work on if somebody has the possibility to do some kind of body weight rows or negative. Let's just say if you have a pull-up bar, the best way to do it is to jump on a pull-up bar, hold it, and lower yourself slowly, where you're focusing on the eccentric part of the motion. That's still going to strengthen the muscles that you need for pulling. So start like that and start lowering yourself down. Also, the best method is, I don't know if anybody heard about it, it's called greasing the groove, where you approach the bar and you do the exercises as many times as you can while as fresh as you can. So you never max out, so you're not burning out your nervous system. I think that works the best way with pull-ups. You shouldn't be sore. You should be walking away from the pull-up bar feeling energized. So make it a routine. Develop that strength as a skill instead of a workout. That's how you should approach it. It shouldn't be a workout. It should be a skill, like a motor skill. Hit it and then walk around. Maybe in an hour, come back, try to hit it again. Always stay fresh. You're going to build your muscles up to that way. Once you could do one pull-up, then we'll start building on top of that.
Yeah, and I really like that idea of developing it as a skill first, right? Yep. I think that's amazing. All right, so here's a question now. So as I said, I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I'm a sports medicine guy. And so I'm gonna touch on a little bit of injury stuff now, right? So obviously with high volume, and you mentioned this earlier on, you've got to vary your grip or vary your hand position so that we decrease the amount of strain in one position. But first of all, when you're doing such high volumes, do you have any concerns about repetitive use injuries?
I do. That goes kind of in the back of my mind, and I'm thinking like, well, I'm not feeling it now, but what about, in the long run? I do really like to focus on form, and I'm very attentive. If you see my videos, my form, not to boast, but I have pretty good form because I watch my videos again and I see like, hey, where could I improve, or like my hand positions, or, how can I adjust? And I listen to my body as well. If something doesn't feel comfortable, I'll move my hand positions. I'll move my feet positions. I used to do burpees with my feet really close together, and I felt like that was putting some strain on my lower back when I would pop up after doing high repetitions. So I started playing with my feet. Hey, maybe when I do a burpee and I stand up, if I keep my feet shoulder width apart, that might help a little bit with the lower back strain. Or if I keep my core tight on the push-up and imagine that my back is flat, that's gonna really help from my hips from sagging, and my lower back is not going to hurt. So I always feel like I should mitigate the wear and tear of the high rep repetition by always focusing on doing the exercise the right way. I feel like if you do something the right way, that's going to be your key to longevity, besides the obvious warm up and cool down after the exercises. But but you're the expert. I'm no doctor. That's just kind of my idea about it. And so far, I don't have any kind of joint or shoulder pain or wrist pain. But I am very attentive to my mobility before my workouts.
Okay.
Very attentive.
Well, so you just mentioned and someone put up a question here. and I know who this person is, the trainer who put this up. And so they said injuries / mobility. And one of the things that I was interested, and I'll let you speak to, more about this, your thoughts about mobility. But I was interested, normally when I see a lot of people, especially if they're doing high reps or heavy weights or that kind of stuff, they're all about the gains and they don't do anything about mobility. But I was interested to see one of your posts where you are doing a lot of the same exercises that we teach for wrist and upper extremity mobility. And you were doing that yourself. So give us your thoughts about mobility and how that relates to keeping yourself, functioning properly.
Yeah, it's maintenance. It's like a tune-up on a car. If you don't keep up with that stuff is gonna get old, or rusty, or it's gonna give out on you. I always feel like you should prime the body and focus on whatever body parts you're gonna be working that day. So if obviously if I'm doing burpees, I'm really focusing on my shoulder mobility. I'm doing all the wrist mobility, and I'm really priming my body every time I go in. I'm making sure everything's right. It's almost like doing checks on an airplane before it takes off into flight. It's like, hey, everything's good. The engine's good. All right, this is lubed up. This is primed up. Everything looks good. Okay, am I cleared hot? All right, let's do it. And that kind of like set my mental checklist goes through my mind. What am I going to be working on today? Oh, I'm going to be doing a lot of Navy SEALs. That's really heavy on the shoulders, and that's really heavy on the glutes and the quads, bringing the legs back and forth. So I'm going to really focus on getting all those muscles warmed up, so I'm ready to go. And I noticed that consistency with that and consistency with the workouts really provides longevity, because you treat your body good, and it's going to respond really well to you as well.
Okay. Somebody asked, do you deploy any other traditional means of cardio? If yes, what's the volume like per week?
So I run about 4 to 5 days a week, separate from my workouts. Or if I'm not running, I like to jump on the rowing machine. Either or is good. When I was back in the States, I'd love to swim. I think that's a great workout. I feel like cardio should be done for time. It should always be timed, and it shouldn't be leisurely unless you're doing a active recovery. So if I'm doing some kind of cardio exercise, I'm going to set a time, and I'm going to do a time hack. Or if I'm doing intervals, I'm trying to hit those splits. It's always performance-based cardio for me, and that always worked for me. Otherwise, there's no way that I'm going to spend 45 minutes on the elliptical watching TV. I can't do it.
I hear you, and I agree. Now, we got a few minutes left, so I'm going to ask one more question from the audience here, and I'm going to kind of generalize it. They ask, any advice for stiff lower back the morning after training? I stretch, but it doesn't seem, what does it say here? It doesn't seem to be enough. And I would just say, so obviously I know that there are probably days when you're sore and tight. So what are your recommendations for those days after, right? So you've done a heavy workout the day before. The next day you come and you're like, you're just tight and cramped up or whatever. What are your recommendations for that?
So what I learned is before I stretch, I really like to warm up to get the core temperature elevated. And I feel like that gets the stretches a lot deeper. So if you have a really stiff lower back, maybe go for a light jog and then really hit the stretches hard, because I believe the muscle is warmed up and it's a little bit more elastic. Other than that, some recovery tools. I know foam rollers are great. I foam roll too. I feel like that gets my lower back. And if it doesn't get better, then you might have to check if you're doing too much volume for your fitness level. And if you're sore all the time and you're walking around in a lactic acid bath, then maybe your training is doing more harm than good, and you have to pull back the reins a little bit, because you're training to be better and to be healthier, not always to be sore. Your training shouldn't be counterproductive.
For sure. And one of the things that I like about this training is that there's a little bit of, you're kind of playing in between aerobic conditioning and anaerobic conditioning. And if you, as you said, if you want to turn it up a little bit and make it anaerobic, then you add in a couple more pumps, right? If you want to make it more aerobic, then you just take down the pace a little bit, right? And make it simpler. So you can kind of tailor which system you're in, and sort of you know, predetermine how much soreness, how much lactic acid that you're going to develop by doing that. So
Yeah.
listen, we're running out of time here. We got to stop in a few minutes. So any last thoughts that you want to share with this audience on this podcast today?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, in the end, you hear my advice. You're in control of your own body and your own workouts. You have to figure out what works for you. And this is the beauty of it. It's the trial and error. And this is your own fitness journey. This is your own goals. So play around with it. You have the freedom to do whatever you want. And it's great because you could really hit those goals. You could accomplish whatever you want. You could take your body to new heights. You just have to put in the work, and the results will come. Just show up, and everything else will follow suit. Nobody ever walked away feeling bad unless they didn't show up. It's you know, it's the workouts that you don't go to where you don't feel like it, where you beat yourself up. You come up and do the work, whether it be good or bad. At least you showed up and you did it. So if anybody's ever questioned yourself, just get out of bed and go train. Good or bad day, at least you did the right thing, and you're making yourself better. And I'm there along with you in the process. Just so you know that Iron Wolf is a human too. I have my good days and my bad days, but you know, in the end, you got to get it done. And I just want to thank everybody. I want to thank you for having me here and having me run my mouth and listen to me.
Not a problem.
I really appreciate it. You're
Not
always
a problem
welcome to Rep City.
All right. So thank you very much for being a part of this. And, you know, today we only covered a few things. And, you know, if you're game, I would love to have you back sometime in the future where we can discuss some more stuff, some more specific stuff, because I really appreciate what you do. And I really appreciate the content that you put out. And so I want to thank you again for taking the time. And because I know your life is a lot more hectic than mine at this present time. So thank you very much. And I know that my subscribers, my followers greatly appreciate this and all the insight that you had to share with us. And I look forward to doing it again.
Thank you.
Not a problem, brother.
For having me. And I would love to do this again.
All right, perfect. We will hook it up, and I'll chat with you a little bit more offline. All right.
All right. Have a good one. Stay strong. Wolf out.
All right. Likewise.